our cruise, Amanzi Athunqayo, Sindebele word meaning the water that rises. My name is Phoebe, and Captain Sylvester is in command this evening. All drinks served on board are included in the toll price.
Before long, white settlers too began to push northward, over this great waterway where a generation earlier, David Livingstone had wandered alone. To Rhodes would fall the unique distinction of having not one but two African colonies bearing his name.
The stretch of water we are now on is the deepest and the narrowest part of the Zambezi, and it was here where the pioneers chose to cross as from 1889. They floated their wagons using that balsa wood and swam their kerker. Being so close to the river, a frighteningly large amount of the settlers became ill and often died from malaria and black water fever.
Livingstone had died exactly 20 years earlier, and now the way was open for Christianity and commerce. Here in these lands where Livingstone had found, as he said, perfect security for life and property, but where, for Africans, there was no longer any such thing. But African resistance was not yet over. In 1896, just 3 years later, surviving Matabele regiments of about 14,000 men, some now armed with rifles, rose in furious revolt. They swept down on isolated white settlements and slaughtered more than 100 farmers. Caught unprepared, the bulk of the settlers made a defensive laager at their new capital of Bulawayo. Then the Shona people, infuriated by taxation and forced labor on white farms, rose in their turn. Led by the priests of their religion, the spirit mediums Nahanda and Kagubi, they fought a stubborn guerrilla war for many months. It was not until 1897 that both risings were finally overcome.
Navarungu, Sigwagwagwa, Nenganunu, Saivana Tazakaone, Wakazonera Kuvarungu, Zawia Navarungu, and those Valdusa Navarungu, Van Wanga Vasina, Wangane Futi Mafumo.
The settler forces had suffered considerable losses in the fighting. Their mood was not merciful. So-called rebels were hunted down and, when taken prisoner, treated as dangerous criminals. Chained together, they were brought before summary courts and not infrequently hanged from the nearest tree. Captured at last, Nahanda and Kagubi were also hanged. Such were the foundations on which Cecil Rhodes built his empire. Having thrust aside anyone who stood in his way, Rhodes spent little time in the country he had formed. This was the hut he used as an office. Close by, the colonial government State House was built directly on the site of King Lobengula's old headquarters. At his death in Cape Town in 1902, Rhodes's body lay in state and was then taken to Bulawayo, where it was carried in procession through the streets. In the Matopo Hills, south of the city, Rhodes had a summer house built, where he liked to sit in the evening and watch the sun go down over that old Africa into whose history he had broken with such explosive force. Here the coffin was placed overnight before being carried up into the hills for burial. thousands of Europeans had gathered at the spot called World's View. Rhodes had come here in the past and had chosen it as his final resting place.
So here he lies, in the heart of the country that he conquered. But are we to see this grave as the final act of taking possession, or the ultimate insult to the people he dispossessed? Rhodes has evoked conflicting judgments. For the world of wealth, he was and is the mighty empire builder, the benevolent millionaire, the hero of money. For the world of poverty, he remains a plunderer and a pirate, the robber baron who took with both hands what did not belong to him. Rhodes and his men brought material progress, and 19th century Africa certainly needed progress. But they brought it in such a way that Africans could not share in it. They deprived Africans of that very condition, freedom, that enables mankind to move forward and develop. So the great mission of the Bible and the gun ended by completely contradicting itself, by producing an African servitude in which the visions and the dreams of men such as Livingstone were bound to be denied and set at naught.